Good afternoon, everyone. Thought I'd pop in. I had a bit of an issue this morning with the internet. Just let me check that that's working. Yeah, it is. Hey, yeah, I had an issue this morning with Wirecast. It wasn't connecting for some reason. There was something going on with YouTube, so that's the reason why I kept postponing the time. Initially, I had it on at to start at 1:30 here, so I'm 10 minutes different. Then I had to schedule it till 2 o'clock because I thought it wasn't going to actually go. So, hi Tony, how are you? Hi, how are you, Alteric? Just let me put my phone and everything on quiet for the moment, so we don't annoy anyone. And then let me also put my phone, my watch on quiet as well. So how's everyone going? Just let me say hi in the chat. So if you are watching live, guys, throw away some questions. I will, like I said, give time at the end there to show some questions or to go through all the questions. I've got stacks to talk to you about actually today. There was quite a bit of news and rumours and things going on. So I'm going to be showing you that. It is, of course, beer o'clock here in Melbourne, even though it's only 1:41 in the afternoon, but who cares? I run my own business and I'm my own boss, so I can just tell myself off. If I get a bit tipsy, I'll just basically ignore myself. Hi Dave, how are you? Gerald here as well. Here and happy with my new A7RIII. I'm sure you would be. I don't think I've heard anyone say anything bad about that camera so far, so everyone seems to be giving great reviews for it. I think Sony have really lifted their game actually, so it seems to be that they've hit one out of the ballpark, I think. Hopefully with the A7S III that comes out early next year, and I'll talk about that soon. They're going to do the similar thing with that camera as well. So that's what I'm looking forward to. So like I said, if you can, as people start to actually pop in, just let me throw that up. I've got another monitor up here. I'm just going to make this a bit small, a bit bigger. Now I'm going to give you a studio tour a little bit later too. I'm hoping that I can get the iPhone to work wirelessly and give you a bit of a studio tour as well. I tried to do one last week, but for some reason when I went to check back, the camera had been massive and you couldn't see anything, and that's why I had some funny comments about what I was showing. I was trying to give you a tour of the whole studio and it was coming up all messed up. So hopefully I can get that working today. For all my the people in LA watching and all that, stay safe guys. I've been seeing all the fires that you've been having over there. Us Australians know all about this. Our fire season will be starting soon as well, and it can get particularly bad here through summer. So we are thinking about you guys in LA, so just stay safe. Let me know too if you have, like I said, any questions. I'll bring back a little bit later on that up so we can have a discussion about that at the end. Just make sure that you put at David Osler there too, to make sure that you... I'll be highlighted, and that way I can answer the questions that you're actually watching. So make sure that you highlight my name at David Osler, and then we can have a discussion about that too. Clearly though, you can also help one another as well. That's the advantage of being able to pop in live. For the UK viewers and Europe viewers, I've had a number of people saying that they always miss out. Well, I am going to do it possibly tomorrow or next week. I am going to do one that will fit in with you, with your timelines, guys. So I will try and do one every so often too, to sit in with you in that way as well. Yeah, Del today said last week's tour got me sick. Someone should have said something. I didn't see anything on the live chat. No one actually said anything about it being bad, and I just kept doing it. And then when I looked back later on, I thought, what on earth is going on? And for some reason, that camera that I selected, which is just a Logitech camera that's sitting on top, I think it's this one, this little thing here. For some reason, it came out really big. It had done it about 2000%. So whatever I was showing was this big blur, and everything was a massive enlargement. So anyway, I thought it was quite funny. Now, if you are watching later on, just skip to where this pre-show disappears, because that's when the actual show will start. I'm just going to give it around about 5 more minutes, and then we'll actually get on to the discussion about all the rumours and stuff like that. I'll just wait for a few more people to pop on, because I kept changing the time this morning due to some issues I had with YouTube. It wouldn't let me connect for some reason. So hopefully that's all fixed. So if you can, crack a stubby. We call these stubbies here in Australia. crack a stubby with me. Coronas today, A7RIII, yep, I'm into them. No more wedding editing today, or I might do some actually after this. I've got a engagement shoot that I'm doing this afternoon. Well, it's 6 o'clock this evening, so I'm going to sort of go around my local hometown. I'll be doing that as well. I'll probably use a beautiful avenue. If you look yesterday at YouTube, you'll see I put an image of a video up of using the GH5. That is shot just down the road from me. Hi Richard, how are you? That's shot just down the road from me. It's called the Avenue of Honor. That avenue, I'm just going to bring it up so you can have a look. Just let me get to YouTube. Just to give you a bit of history about it, I'll give you a bit of Australian history. Where's my channel? And I'll be shooting down there, I think, this afternoon, because it's so lovely down there. Like when I shot that last video, this one, just let me stop for a second. I'll bring it up for you. When we did this video that I did the other day down there, this is just down the road from me. It's 2 minutes away. It's the entrance to our town. You can see here, this is the start of spring though, so that's why the leaves and I think they're Canadian elms. These trees form a beautiful avenue of honor. They go for, I don't know, I think it's about 3 kilometres. And each one of these trees has a plaque on them because they're dedicated to a soldier that died in the war, World War I and World War II, I think. So they're all dedicated to certain soldiers. So this is called an avenue of honor. That we have, it's a beautiful entrance to our town. It's stunning. It's really well known here in Australia. And like I said, it's really long and it just forms that canopy that comes over the actual road. You can see Kerry here, that's my lovely wife, holding the Profoto B1 here. I'm using the Panasonic GH5 here though, so it's not much of an interest to you guys using Sony. But I just wanted to try it to see how it is. And there's no way known I'm going to transfer over to the Panasonic system. I just wanted to see how this lens went. The interesting thing is, this isn't the lens that I use. This is equivalent to a 24-70. But I use the 42.5mm, which is tiny. It's such a small lens, but it gives you the focal length of an 85 lens as well. It's a 1.7, so it's gorgeous, and I love using this road. So I'll probably use this tonight to do some stuff on. It looks even prettier now because the leaves are fully out. This was just when they were actually starting to come out. So yes, I'll be doing that tonight. So stay tuned. I may show some images of that. So I just wanted to bring that up to have a bit of a discussion. All right, guys, so we might start. I'm just going to bring up the logo because we'll actually start from here. Let me know too if you have any questions about using this GH5, how you guys think it went. If you actually, you can see here too, just out of curiosity, you can see how close I'm actually getting the flash to Ellie here, because I wanted it to be fairly soft. You can see how lovely and soft that light actually is. It's beautiful, and I think it's matching that ambient background, you know, really pretty there. So yeah, have a look at that video anyway if you haven't seen it, and you know, obviously give some comments and let me know what you think about that as well. I was actually quite surprised at how well the GH5 actually went. Anyway, so I'm going to call up the A7RIII images and then we'll start on with all the Sony news and rumours. Good afternoon, or I should say g'day everyone. It's Corona o'clock. I've already had a couple say that it was Corona. They said that in the live discussion I did the other day. I just don't want to have it every single day I'm on live because I just wouldn't get any work done, because obviously once I start having one of these I get relaxed. Someone's just said too, how old is your talent? You're talking about the girl there, Tony? She's, I think, around about 19, I think, Ellie. I'm very good friends with Ellie. I've worked with Ellie for a long time. She's a really good makeup artist. You can see if you go back, I've shot Ellie a number of times. She's a really good friend of mine. We've stayed very close. Yeah, Ellie, yeah. I think she's around 19, I think. She wouldn't be much older than that, so she's really quite young. The funny thing is, someone asked me the other day, they said, is she my wife? Ellie will be shattered if she sees that. I just laughed. I thought, oh my God. No, but we're just friends. So yeah, so that's Ellie. But she's fantastic, great personality. I think she's gorgeous. She has those facial features that are just stunning to photograph. But not only that, she has just a wonderful personality, so she's just great to shoot, and I'm going to continue shooting her every so often. That was one of the few shoots there that I've done without paying, because I wanted to actually test that GH5 out. There's no way I'm going to charge someone or let someone pay for me to shoot gear that I actually haven't tested before. So I actually just, well, she didn't pay, Tony. That's why I said she's one of the few that I've actually used that I haven't, that I didn't charge. Like I said, 90% of all of my modelling shoots are paid shoots. So unlike a lot of YouTubers, most YouTubers out there, all the shoots that you see from me, about 90% of them, probably a bit higher than that actually, they've paid me to do those shoots. So it's not something that you're seeing where I've just called out for models. I'll only do that if I'm going to test something new, and I don't think I'd like to actually test them. I better move this mic around, actually. Yeah, they're ones that I've if I want to, say, test a new camera, a new lens, something like that, a new flash system, that's when I'll ask for someone to come out, because it's not fair on them to basically make them pay if I'm testing gear and I'm not sure of what the results were going to be like. I actually wasn't sure how that GH5 would work at all, and to be honest, I was quite surprised how well it went, particularly in colour, because the colour from that camera was really nice, and also the depth of field using that lens was also very nice as well. But have a look at that video anyway, and let me know what you think. It's just a pity for video that the AF sucks so much on that camera. If it had good AF, well, it really could be an interesting camera. Cheers. As you can see, Susie's in the background there. She's got her Christmas look on, so she's happy to see you guys. It is Christmas time here, like everywhere else. But yeah, I've put a top on her. She's got a nice Christmas hat on, a nice Christmas top. So, like I said, fire away some... yeah, I've moved the audio, Gerald. It was actually across on the right-hand side, so it should be better now. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to start going through some news, because I've got... put the mic a little bit higher. How's that, Tony? Oh, it's just out of the frame. Testing 1, 2, 3. How's that, guys? Let me know. It should be okay now. It's just out of the frame now, so it's gone. Now, I'm going to take you on a studio tour a little bit later. Hopefully it'll work. Last week I did one for you and it didn't actually work, so I'm hoping that I can get that to work now wirelessly through the iPhone. So I'll take you on a tour of that if I can get it all working, just to show you how this setup works. You may also be interested to see too how this complete setup works that I talk to you guys, so I'm going to show you that as well. But let's get on to the latest news anyway, because I've got stacks to talk to you guys about today. So let me switch over. So let's start talking first of all about this, because the A7RIII, they've had a disassembly teardown, obviously, and you can see it's amazing the number of parts that go into doing these cameras. Just let me check that that's, yeah, that sounds great. Thanks, Robert. Yeah, so this was a complete breakdown of the A7RIII, and it's, like I said, it's amazing how many components go into these latest cameras, you know, and it's unbelievable when you start taking things down. No wonder they're so costly to repair. But the interesting thing was that when this was broken down, there was comments talking about the weather sealing wasn't very good. Oh, thank you so much, Dave. I know you're going to give in. Still trying to make me buy the A7RIII. You guys crack me up. I'm waiting for the A7S III, Dave. You can put the money towards that. Yeah, so this camera, people were talking about that the weather sealing they thought wasn't very good, but I've got another article which I want to show you where it sort of disputes that, and they've actually saying that the weather sealing is better on the A7RIII. So, but this is a great article, and again, I'll put these links all down below so that you can have a look and read these later on at your own leisure. But it is quite interesting to break them all down and just to see how things are created and made. Technology is just incredible when you're starting to look at these things. I used to, as a child, love to take things apart. I just enjoy doing it, and that's why sometimes I find these sort of things fascinating to look at. One of the things, though, and this is an interesting thing about the way that these whole systems work, is that, and this is why I'm a little bit suspect about doing on-camera charging and things like that, with any of these cameras, because if you look at the actual board of these, and it's these areas here, I'm just going to, let me just bring up Desk Scribble so I can show you what I'm talking about. If you're looking at these areas here, which I'm pretty sure that that's the connectors probably to the USB ports on the side. So it's interesting that the way that they make these cameras, just let me check too, because I think someone else just made a donation, so I'd just love to say thank you to everyone. Thank you so much, Tony. I really appreciate that. So if you look here, this is why I really don't suggest too much that you do use charging through these USB ports. And it's even, if you're not careful with the HDMI port on the camera, if you don't protect these ports, it is a real area where the camera can fail. And that's why I very rarely use charging directly through the USB ports on these. Because to be honest, I do think if anything's going to break, it's going to be those ports. And I've heard a lot of the times talking about people breaking off the ports, the HDMI cable that goes in, particularly because that's the smaller cable. One of the advantages of the GH5 is that the actual cable inside this, the HDMI port is a full HDMI port, so it's a lot bigger and a lot firmer, so I'm much more confident with leaving the HDMI cable in on that camera. Usually if I'm running them on the Sonys, and I haven't done that on this because I never really move it once it's set in, but I will use the clamps to protect those cables so it stops those cables moving around. But it's just something that you do have to be conscious of, guys, that if you are using the USB charging directly in, it is an area where the camera could fail. To be honest, I think it's much better to get a dummy battery and put a dummy battery into the camera and do it that way. And that's nearly always the way that I work, and it's the way that I'm actually charging this camera now. It's just got the dummy battery in, so I never have to worry about it running out. It also helps with heat, obviously, as well, because you've got the battery outside the camera. But the main thing is that you're not worried about those ports breaking off. So it is an issue. So you do, please think about that. It can be an issue if you're going to use those ports. And really, I don't recommend you doing it unless you have to. You're far better off to use a dummy battery. Unfortunately, there's no dummy batteries available yet for the A7RIII or the A9. Not that I know of anyway. They'll come. So at the moment, you do have to use these USB chargers, but just be wary that you could break off those adapters. And if you did break that off, it wouldn't be covered by warranty. So it's something that you'd have to pay for, and it would be pretty expensive. So just be careful about that. But the interesting thing was a number of comments were talking about the weather sealing on this camera, and I thought that initially too. I thought, well, they haven't improved the weather sealing. But this second article by Pat, what's his name? Pat Nabrowski, I think his name is, Nadowski or something, is saying that it has been improved. He's actually saying that it's much better than its predecessors. So there's a whole article that you can read about this, and he's talking about, you can see the weather sealing that's coming around the outside. And it just says, the first thing we noticed was this long edge, that's the top cover, attaches to the main body. So they're saying that basically it has got weather sealing through all of these areas, where the A7RIII didn't. I've used my camera, the A7RIII and the A6500 and stuff in bad weather. I've used it even in waterfall sometimes, where the water is coming across, not in the waterfall, but near it, where the mist was all coming in, and I've never had an issue. But I have seen images online, particularly the Angry Photographer showed one where they were all getting corrosion on the inside. So perhaps they have improve this weather sealing on these cameras. It's just saying, in addition to the tight fit, so they're saying it's also a very tight fit, which obviously helps as well. Sealed wall that should be difficult for any rain to climb through to get inside your A7RIII. So they're saying that it is sealed much better. So again, I'll put that link in as well. So it's interesting how this completely conflicts what that other people were saying about the other camera. Anyway, so it's there if you did want to have a look at that. So let me know what you think about that, because I'd be curious to know what you guys think about. Do you trust your cameras in the weather? I certainly trust the GH5. The weather sealing on that is incredible, because everything has rubber seals all over it. I'm just going to show you, just so you can sort of compare the difference here. And this is where I wish Sony would go. If you're looking at the A9 here, well, their ports are just plastic, and it's hard plastic, and when you pull them out, there's no weather sealing really on these ports at all. So potentially that's one area where you could definitely get water that could go on the inside of how these cameras actually are. And that's one area where I know the Canon people have been saying about the weather sealing on the on this camera, the A9, is not as good as, say, something like a D5 or the Canon 1DX. Now, if you compare that to, say, how the Panasonic works, the Panasonic is all got rubber. They're all rubber. So I'm just going to try and make sure it's focused. They're all rubber, and these rubber seals are completely sealed against the back, and like I said, they're all actually rubber. So they do seal incredibly well against the body, and there's no way water's going to get into these sort of areas. So it is one thing that I think Sony could definitely improve on. So I do hope as their cameras are going on, and now it looks like, looking at that article, that they're saying that they have improved it here. So you may find that with each new camera that comes out now, they start to basically increase the weather sealing on these cameras. Now remember, no camera is completely waterproof, but they can definitely be helped from if you are standing in rain and stuff like that. And as a wedding photographer, that can be an issue, because unlike a normal say portrait shoot where you could contact the person and say, I'm going to cancel due to the weather, you can't do that obviously if it's a wedding. You have to go ahead with that wedding. So it is a bit of an advantage, and that's one of the main things I thought when I got the GH5. If the weather is really bad, and that's why I wanted to test it, I probably would use the GH5 if I was in rain, because I would feel much more confident standing out in the rain shooting with that than I would with my A9. So I'd probably keep the A9 in the bag, or have my assistant hold an umbrella and still shoot that way. Whereas I'm pretty confident with the GH5 I could shoot out in that rain. But we'll see, hopefully Sony will improve that as their new cameras go along. But read that article, because it is interesting. Like I said, and it looks like they have improved it greatly on the A7R III, which is a great thing. Cheers. Look at the next image. That's as long as it comes up. I've just done an update to Wirecast, and I've just noticed that it's playing up today. It's not switching. I think it might have even crashed. Can you guys still see me? Just let me know if you can still see me, guys, because I think it's crashed. So let me know in the comment box down below if you can actually see. Oh, there we go. I think it's come back now. Gee, that's really slow. Yeah, I have to make sure I don't switch too much. Hopefully there'll be another update. They updated this program the other day, and it seems to be slow. And also I updated my Mac this morning as well with a new operating system. So hopefully it could even be that. All right, let's go to the new one. There's a discussion here about the Nikon D850 versus the A7R III, and they're talking about which one's best. This was on DP Review, and it's interesting. I'm just laughing at Tony saying, unfortunately, we can see you. Thanks, Tony. I really appreciate that. The Nikon D850 versus the A7R II. Now, there's a whole discussion going on here, and I think they go through basically everything from video to focusing, everything else. But if you look at, I'm just going to go to the end and what they summarize here. They've basically said that, just let me move myself. They've said that, as we said earlier in this slideshow, you can no longer suddenly decide between the which camera is going to be better for a given situation, based on simply whether it's mirrorless or digital SLR. But with these two cameras, it's near impossible to find any situation in which one definitely outshines the other. So they're saying basically that both cameras are very, very similar. So it's going to be a personal choice about which camera you take. It then goes down into here to talk about landscapes, and it's saying landscapes, the dynamic range differences are small enough that when it comes down to the question of whether the weight difference or the built-in intervalometer swings it for you. So they're saying basically if you wanted a intervalometer, obviously you'd have to go for the D850, obviously for your time lapse and things like that. If weight was an issue, well then obviously you'd go for the Sony. They're just saying that if you were talking about sports, you'd go for the D850 because they were saying it had a little bit better focus for action. But if you're doing video, obviously the Sony, or if you're photographing people, the Sony was better because of the IAF. And it just says this isn't fence sitting on our part. They're generally two of the best cameras the world has ever seen. And they probably do mention it. I haven't read the whole article because, well, I'm not just interested in the D850. But I know personally, no matter what they would say, for me, the EVF is a big enough reason alone for me to get the Sony over the D850. The other thing alone, which I'm wondering whether they do mention that later on, I may have a look at this later today. But the other interesting thing is too, have they mentioned the stabilization as well, which can be a big difference too. If you're dealing with having in-body stabilization as against just lens stabilization, you are going to be able to shoot much slower, let's say 1/8 of a second, than you can say with the D850, where it will be basically, you'd have to shoot with a higher shutter frame. So that can be an issue as well. But the two things that really, well, there's three things that would basically be my thing about this. And I'm saying that that's why I believe the A7R3 is a much better camera. EVF hits it out of the ballpark. There's no comparison in using a digital SLR to when you've got to use, your optical viewfinder. I hate going back to optical viewfinder. The other thing too is, like I said, the image stabilization to me matters, and that really is a big difference if you're shooting video particularly, but also if you wanted to shoot, say, moving water and not have a tripod for some reason, and you're out there just traveling and you haven't got a tripod, well, you could, say, slow it down enough and still hand hold it. Or even if you were shooting in low light, you can lower you can go down to 1/50th or 1/25th of a second and still get decent shots, whereas you couldn't do that with the D850. The other thing too is weight. For me, that's also a really big thing, because carrying around, if you were traveling or hiking into the bush or forest, whatever you want to call it, the Sony is way lighter than what the Nikon is. So again, that's another thing too for me that matters. And even a fourth thing, video too. The video in the A7R3 is going to kill the video that the D850 has. So that's another thing too. So really, come on, DP Review, tell the truth. The A7R3 is definitely going to be a better camera than what the D850 is. They're just sitting on the fence. They've said they're not, but I think they are. So let me know in the question too what you think about that, guys, because I'd be interested to know what you guys think about that. Another thing too is Camera Labs have reviewed the A7R3 and they say it has by far the best looking JPEG straight out of camera. This was proven with the A9 too, so I would probably think that someone that has the A9 and the A7R3, I know Michael has it, I'm not sure if he's here today, but let me know too whether you think the RAWs have also improved. I'm amazed at the difference in the RAWs from the A9 to the A7R2. The color science is much better, and that's even in RAWs. I don't shoot JPEG, but there's a definite improvement in the overall color of the shots, and that was proven when I did the Sony versus the Canon 5D Mark IV, the Sony A9. They were both using 70 to 200mm lenses, and the color was almost identical, so they've definitely improved it a lot, and I would think that they've also improved the A7R3 the same way. So anyone that has both cameras, let me know, and if you haven't got it in the live discussion, let me know in the comments down below, because I'd be curious to know whether you think that the RAWs have been improved in the A7R3 as well. So yeah, let me know what you think about that, guys, because I'm curious. Again, I'll leave this in the box down below so that you can have a look at it. But I've seen a huge improvement over the A9 with color science over the A7R2 and my other cameras that I have, like the A6500, etc. And I think they're probably using the same color science on the A7R3. But let me know and I'll discuss that with you later. Sony have basically, there's a rumoured Sony Roadmap. Cheers again. That's come out. And what they're saying is that this is for 2018. And they're basically giving timelines here for what they think will happen. They're saying the Sony A7S III, 95% chance of shipping in Q2 2018. so between April and June. And I do think that's probably the next camera that will be released, and I've discussed that with you in previous talks with you guys, that I think particularly if the rumours are true with the GH5S being announced in another week, you'll probably find that Sony will push that forward. They won't want to wait too long if the GH5 brings out a much better low light version of that camera. I think Sony will have to answer it. So I do think that the next camera is probably going to be the A7S3. So let me know whether you agree with that as well. And then they're saying next is the A7RIII, 80% chance of it shipping within the first half of 2018. I also do believe that you're going to see that camera, the A7RIII, after the A7S3. They have to bring the A7RIII out as a lower end full frame camera. At the moment, Sony do not have a cheap full frame low end camera. So that's probably going to have to come out as well. I do think it's going to happen. And whether they bring down a few of those features from the A7R or the A9 down onto that camera, it's going to be interesting to see. The interesting thing will be whether they even put, say, the dual card slots in that camera and things like that. But you know, we'll wait and see what they actually release. I'm hoping they do. But I don't think they can put too much in it, because there's no way they'd want that camera to take away sales from the A7R3 and the A9. So it's going to be interesting to see where they put that camera and how it's targeted. But they're saying that is going to be the first half of 2018. So the A7S3 first, then the A7RIII next. And also they're going to have an A mount, A7RIII, 50% chance of it coming out in early 2018. So that's another one as well. Now, there's no mention here of the A6500 replacement, so I am hoping that that is changed. It's been 12 months basically since that came out, so I am hoping that that's also improved as well, whether it'll be an A6700 or an A7000. So that's going to be interesting to see what is released next there. Now, the lens lineup is really interesting, because they're actually saying that the first non-rumour, the Sony 400 FE, will ship in September. So that's even BH photo. I think if you open that up, let me just open this up in a new window. So they're saying here, so this is not a rumour now, it's expected to ship early September 2018. Obviously, there's no price or anything yet, but they wouldn't have put that on if this wasn't really confirmed. So that lens is going to be confirmed. 400mm 2.8. What a monster that's going to be! I reckon that's going to be $13,000 to $15,000. It's going to be incredibly expensive. So that's that one. That won't be a lens that I'll be getting, but for sports shooters, it's a needed lens. And again, that's going to shut up all the Canon and Nikon fanboys who's saying that Sony don't have any sports lenses, so that will stop that. One thing that is interesting, though, is this Sony 135mm FE lens. They're saying that there's a 70% chance to get this within 2018, and it's probably going to be a 1.8 aperture. Oh, that'd be incredible. I love my Batis, but a 135mm focal length is a gorgeous focal length if you're doing portraits. And if you could get a 1.8 version of that, an FE lens that would be Sony, that would be incredible. I do think also you're probably going to find some other manufacturers like Sigma or Samyang are also going to bring one out. They are saying down the bottom, number 8, that 135mm FE will be announced, and maybe a new Zoom FE2. So Samyang are also going to bring out a lens. But if you do want to stay native in Sony, they're saying that there's a 70% chance that we're going to get that within 2018, and they're probably saying it's going to be a 2.8 version. So that's going to be interesting. If that comes out, I'm going to be wondering how the Batis is going to be actually priced. They'll have to drop that price of the Batis, I would think, because that's a 2.8 version and it's really expensive. So if Sony bring one out, you may be able to get a Batis a lot cheaper. So that could be another thing too, if they drop the price of the Batis. But having said that, they haven't dropped the 85, even though the Sony have brought out a 1.8 85, so we'll see. Also, they're saying a Sony 20mm lens, 2.8, 50% chance of this within 2018. Whether you would like to go 20, I don't really shoot that focal length at all. My main lens is the 35. You can sort of see even here that, you know, on this lens, I've even got the 35 stuck on here. you know, and I adore this lens. It's my favourite lens that I've got. I love that declickable lens. Like when I was talking about it last week, I didn't have the lens actually on me, but they were talking about the Samyang and the difference between the two. I would pay $1,000 for this alone, because for me, shooting video, and remember, I'm doing fusion of stills and video at the same time, being able to smoothly transition the aperture like this. I mean, if I want to put it on auto, I can. There's a little A there. I can also use this and go clicked if I want to use it like a normal conventional. But once you start using your aperture on this, it's just gorgeous. And being able to smoothly change aperture, like I've said, if I'm in a church and walk out, it's dark inside, I can then rack up the aperture and it looks smooth in the video. So it's worth $1,000 for me just to have that feature alone. That's the reason why when people say, would I recommend the Samyang, I'd say no. If you've got the money, I'd be getting the Sony version of that lens. So there's rumours that it's going to be a 20mm lens and it's a 2.8 FE. So let me know in the comments whether you think that that would interest you. The other lens too that they're saying, this is 50% chance. They're saying that there's a Sony 200 to 600mm. 50% chance to get this within 2018. Cheers. They're also saying Zeiss, Batis and Loxia. I've no specs yet about anything upcoming, but there might be 2 lenses in 218, so they're not saying what they will be. Sigma 35 1.4 FE, other FE lenses, so they're saying there's going to be a Sigma 35 1.4. I mean, I don't know how many 35s we need, but Sigma, and also some other lenses. They're saying announcement likely in February of 218 for the 35 1.4. More lenses should be released within 2018. Voigtlander, now this does interest me because there is a rumour that 35 1.4 doesn't interest me that much, but the 125 f2 macro lens could be a beautiful lens, and I'll discuss that with you in a minute. Because I love the Voigtlander lenses. They're just gorgeous once you start using them. And these Tonica or Tonica, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, plan to release a new super wide and fast autofocus lens in 218, and a standard zoom is expected to be released in 218 or 219. And obviously the Samyang 135 FE will be announced. They haven't said what that will be though, whether that will be a 2.8 or a 1.8 lens. If Sony are going to release a 1.8, I think they'd probably have to release a 1.8 lens as well. So they're interesting things. Let me know if you think what you think about those rumours, whether you think that's a good lineup of what things are coming out in the future. Another thing I wanted, now where was that Voigtlander here? This Voigtlander I wanted to show you because it was talking about, down the bottom was a new 125mm f2. Like I said, once you've used Voigtlander, they're gorgeous. The focus ring on these cameras alone and just to feel them is so retro, and I adore using them. A 125 f2 macro could be a beautiful lens, particularly if you're dealing with video. So that could also be a really nice lens as well. It has your aperture ring here too, but I don't know, they're saying $9.99. That's for the 65 f2 macro. I'm not sure how much the 125 will be, but I love the Voigtlander lenses. Now let me scroll back because Sipper have also released October sales figures, and it's disappointing if you shoot digital SLRs. Again, it's just showing how much digital SLRs are struggling. The only thing gaining basically on this is mirrorless cameras. And it's down here where it talks about, where did I read it? Oh, here we go. Compared to October 2016, it says 22% fewer digital SLRs were shipped. That's a massive amount if you look at that, 22% fewer. They're also saying that the Black Friday sales were disappointing, which is interesting as well. But I'm not surprised in a lot of ways that camera sales don't do that well for Black Friday because they never discount current cameras. It's always the cameras that are the prior model. So it doesn't surprise me at all that that's the case. But the interesting thing is they're saying here that 22% fewer digital SLRs are shipped, but there was a 12% rise for mirrorless. So again, it's something that I was talking about a while ago, that mirrorless is growing. I mean, it's not substantial, but at least it's growing, whereas the digital SLRs are 22% lower. So again, this is why I'm saying to people, if you're still dealing with digital SLRs, honestly, I think I'd sell. I'd get the money while you can, and move to mirrorless, because they're just taking forever to change over. I mean, how long can they keep saying they're going to bring out something? So yeah, it's a 12% growth in mirrorless. So that's an interesting article if you wanted to read that. Another thing too, that there's an interesting article here talking about wide speed matters, and they're talking about lenses of things like a fast 1.2 or a f1 lens, FE lenses, and they're basically talking about how beautiful it is. And remember, one of the differences that you can actually sell is your depth of field, and that's how you can always tell an iPhone image, as say, against a smartphone image, or even a point and shoot, compared to a high-end digital SLR. So it's interesting if you look at that. I'm going to do a shoot shortly because I want to use the I want to try the iPhone 10, because I want to actually try it and do a portrait shoot with it. Again, this will be one that I'm not going to charge someone, but I'm going to try and do a portrait shot and just see how they come out, just for curiosity, and I'll post it on YouTube Live to see how what you guys think about it. So that's just an interesting thing that I'm going to do soon. But they're talking about out of depth of field, and basically he's showing out an image here that was shot with this Noculix or whatever it is. And I suppose this was 1.2, obviously, that they're saying here. Let me just see if I can move this around a little bit. Yeah, so you can see the depth of field is very, very shallow, like very shallow here. And obviously you get that nice rendering coming outside here. So this is shot with a very fast lens. And again, it can't be something that you use all the time, but having it in your arsenal is a great thing to actually do. And that's one of the things too that I love about shooting the 35 1.4 and even the Zeiss Batis 85. I'll always be shooting, say, wedding details at 1.4, and I just love to do that because I love to throw that background out of focus. It's also something that you can do too. If you're doing a wedding, for instance, and you don't like the location, the best thing that you can do is shoot wide open and get all of that distraction feature in the background out of focus, and it no longer becomes distracting. So being able to shoot these low depth of field really can be a great thing. The only thing you have to watch is you've got to think about that plane all the time, that focal plane, that if you're shooting two people, just make sure that the other person that you're shooting is eye level with the other person so that everyone's in focus. So, you know, if you have group shots, it becomes an issue. But if you're only shooting one person, you know, it's no longer an issue. But if you are shooting really shallow, you know, this eye would be in focus and this eye could be out of focus, and you may not like that look. But, you know, there's reasons for everything, and it's always something that I like to shoot with. Is wide open, and I will often shoot wide open with my lenses. That's one of the advantages why I love the A9 so much. Being able to shoot wide open on these fast lenses, because I can use the electronic shutter and shoot at 1/32,000th of a second, has changed the way I shoot completely. You know, being able to, say, use the 35 1.4 outdoors on a sunny day and still be able to shoot at 1.4 without using an ND filter is just incredible, and I love that aspect of it. So that's an interesting article that you can look at there. And lastly, this is just a rumour, but, well, it may not be a rumour because I've just checked. B&H and Adorama and stuff have said that you've now got to order in directly the RX1 and the RX1r, so they're saying not available. So there's rumours now that these cameras are going to be replaced. Now, whether that's going to be this new medium format camera that's going to be coming out, it's interesting. But, you know, I thought that was interesting, and I did open the B&H one, and it does say you've got to order it. They're not in stock. So yeah, it's interesting. You know, I'm really not sure where that's going to go, whether that is that one. Someone just said, Keith said, 40 watching and only 5 likes, are you people crazy? Thanks, Keith. Yeah, please like my page, guys. I'd love you to like it because it does promote what I'm doing with other people. So, and it also lets other people know I'm live. So if you can, give me a thumbs up, please do. So before we go to the live questions, I'm going to see if I can bring up this other camera. I'll take you on a studio tour. So let me have a look. So what I'm going to try and do, you'll have to bear with me while I try this, because this new version, it should be able to come on live, and I should be able to walk around with it. So I'm going to use my Osmo Mobile so that it keeps it stable for you guys. Now let me go here. Wirecast go, new Wirecast go. And hopefully... Just bear with me a second. I'm going to see if I can connect it. It worked the other day when I tested it. New iPhone. Here we go. Let's see if that works. And allow. I think it's going to work. Yep. All right, so let me go here. Now it's only... Oh, no, there we go. All right, so I'm just going to see if I can put this into my Osmo mobile. So bear with me for a second, guys. I know it's going to go crazy, but I'm just going to see if I can get this in. Here we go. It's going to make you dizzy. Let me scroll that back. All right, here we go. Now, let me know too, can you hear me? So let me know if you can hear me. Just in the chat. All right, here we go. So let's have a look. Now, so tell me in the chat if you can actually see me. So I'm going to show you basically what's in my whole studio. So I'm just waiting to make sure. So let me know in the chat, guys, whether you can hear me or not. Because if you can hear me, then I'll take you on this tour of my studio. Now, there is a delay. All right, so I'll give it a go. All right, so what I've got inside here, beautiful, you can hear me. All right, so this is my little office location. I'll just show you as I scroll back. So this is purposely built. This was actually purposely built. Well, I did it all myself, actually. I got builders in to actually build it. But you can sort of see all shutters are electronic. So I've got shutters that will actually work in my studio, so you can see outside. So that's how that works. So I can completely black out. The reason why I did that was so I can completely black out the areas that I'm dealing with for when I do things like this, or even if I'm shooting things inside on a sunny day. Well, I can make the studio black. Actually, I can have it completely black. I have got lights up here that are controlled by hue lights, so I can bring in different colors and things like that. And I'll show you that when we go into the studio part. But you can see here, this monitor that I'm looking at up here is a, I think it's a Light Pro unit. I think it's Light Pro. Yeah, it's a Light Pro unit. And it's basically the 330AW. You can control the intensity by remote controls, but that's just on a light stand. So I don't leave that there, because when I'm actually dealing with clients will actually sit down on the couch down here. They'll be viewing the TV that I've got. So I've got a 65-inch television at the back there. It doesn't look that big on here, but it is. It's a very big one. So I'll view slideshows and things like that on that actual screen. So that's how the clients will actually see it. So after this shoot's done today, I've got clients coming in today. I'll pack that up. That's the only thing that I actually have to pack up, is that light. So that's the only light that I'm actually lighting up me as you're actually talking. Now you can see up here, I've got a big clamp. If you look at the back, down through here, that clamp is just a Rode clamp, and it's actually just got it's just got a Sennheiser mic that you can see there. So that's what I'm using to mic me up. So you can sort of see that I used to use lapels and stuff like that, and this basically is a great way of doing it, because I have this set up and I can just move this around sort of to where I want to. So when I'm not using it, I'll push it to the side, and that way I don't have to deal with it anymore. You can see that I've got a widescreen LG screen here, which I adore, because when I'm editing in things like Final Cut and stuff like that, I love the widescreen look of these monitors. And I've also got an Apple monitor over there as well. So that's the normal Apple monitor that's going on here, and you can sort of see I've got a couple of cameras here. That's the A7RIII, I've got my A9, and I've got the GH5 sitting over there. USBs, I'm using the it's the Hoodman. I use to USBs because it's USB 3 steel. Over here I've basically got for my audio, I've got that Sennheiser connected straight down into here. So I'm using the Zoom H6 as my audio. And also sometimes I actually use this Yamaha as well if I'm editing and creating music, because I actually do play music and I like to record my own music. I'm a guitarist and singer, so I actually do that. Beer o'clock, hang on a second. This is what I use to edit in Lightroom. It's a fantastic way of editing in Lightroom. This little Shuttle Pro down the back down here, I use that when I'm in Final Cut and stuff like that. It's a great way of being able to zip through clips. And I'm also using Elgato. You can see here I've got two Elgato. Well, oops, it's just gone dead. Sorry about that. I've got an Elgato box down the back USB device there where I can stick 4 USBs and some Firewire attachments in. There's a Belkin one here that I use as well. That's the hue which makes my lights work in the studio, so I can have colourful lights and do things like that. This little device here is the Apollo Twin. That's the audio interface that I actually use for you guys. That I can control audio, and it also has great preamps. I can plug microphones and guitar amps, guitars straight into this unit, headphones and everything else. It's just wonderful. I just adore that. It's fantastic. It's expensive, but it's fantastic. The Mac Pro obviously is there too, that I'm using for my, everything is done through the Mac Pro. I still like that computer. It never lets me down, so it's fantastic. And obviously some Fostex speakers in the background down here that I use. I've got a fridge stocked with drinks that I give to my clients. So when clients come in, I can actually give them drinks. You know, I ask them if they'd like a beer or a wine or a Coke or whatever they wanted to actually have. And there's just some Christmas decorations. And Susie obviously is sitting over here patiently watching. I have put up photos on the inside. That's a wedding that I did a while ago where they actually hired out the MCG for their wedding. They actually got married down on the ground down there. They're both lovers of sport, and then they had the reception actually in what they call the long room, which is a beautiful room inside there. So that was a fantastic wedding I had that they actually did there, and it's fantastic to have that whole ground to yourself. That was really cool. And then I've just got things like I've got a book down here that shows example of prints that clients can look through. I've got some cards obviously that I can give here, and there's some other prints that are through here as well. And these are all books. There's a B&H book there. These are all books here underneath this where I've been actually featured in these wedding magazines. So I have those all listed, and there's a number of those where I've been featured in wedding magazines and things like that. And then obviously I've got this amazing chair, but I don't use that chair very much. I really only use that chair when I'm doing interviews. Apart from that, I'm on this standing desk, because this desk is controlled by this little thing here, which will move the desk up or down. So I like to stand on that desk, and I stand and do all of my work that way. You can see here, I'll take in the studio. Now you can see where the hue lights start to come in, and I can have them do multiple things. If I'm doing shoots, they can be flashing different colors. I can completely tailor these to shoot whatever I want, and they're all wireless. I'll take you down the back. Now, if you're looking at the actual studio, it's around about 10 meters long. It's really actually big. You may not get the full size of what this actually is. That's just a prop that I actually use, this bike, with some model shoots that I've actually done. I've got this polished concrete. So it's actually polished concrete. It cost me a fortune to get done, but I adore it. It's so easy to clean. And it's one thing that everyone comes in and they just look at it and they go, oh, I love your concrete floor. So I got that done. My son actually did that. He's a concreter. That's what he does. So I did save a lot of money. It still cost me a fair bit, though, getting it done. I've got massive sliding doors here at the back. Let me just bring this back. Oops. Doesn't want to come back. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I've got massive sliding doors that I can pull these curtains across, so I can make it completely blacked out if I want to, or I can use natural light as well. So I can actually move those curtains back and get natural light that will come in.
I also use these V-flats. They're massive V-flats that I can stand up and bring over in the natural light area and use them. And there's also a foam board here that I've stuck stacks and stacks of flowers on that you would have seen us shoot before. One of the great things though with this room is the height of the ceiling. You can't see how high the ceiling is, but it's incredibly high. You know, I mean really high. And I can put my flashes that can actually be up above the model's head and bouncing back, which, you know, can give you some really interesting effects. So it's high enough that I can have that massive reflector up above a model's head and pointing down. Obviously, it's all air conditioned as well. All of these rooms are all air conditioned. You can see here that I have a couch that people can sit down on while we're doing work. There's a makeup station over here, which has the lights on that the girls can be doing all of their makeup and everything else that they want as well. I have this chair that at the moment's just got stuff on, but that's sitting in that makeup area. My favorite tripod is over here too, the Miller Solo. That is an incredible tripod, and it's got the Manfrotto head on it, and it's also got the Eldachrome slider, which I use all the time as well. But that tripod is incredible. That's my actual gimbal, well, one of the gimbals that I actually use, the Fostech. I love it. It's great. It's so light. You can see Ken sitting here, Christmas time. There's also a chair that I use there. You can see here that I have a big mirror so the girls can check themselves. Remember, I do a hell of a lot of modelling shoots, so the girls can actually see themselves in this full frame mirror if they need to actually have it. I've got this monopod, which I'm gonna review this for you guys because that is the best monopod I've ever had. I've got this wind machine, which I adore. This is a Light Pro wind machine. It's a professional one. That's great with a control. I can control it where I like. And obviously some C stands, because C stands are the best stands that you can actually get. Lastly, I'll show you the storeroom. This is my storeroom. It has a door so I can close it. But basically I have all of my lighting gear inside this actual room. You can also see that I've got lockable containers down the back, which is where I put my cameras and stuff like that so that they're locked up and they can't be accessed really securely. And I have things like ladders and cables, and there's light modifiers at the back. These are all Light Pro lighting effects here. This is all my battery charging stations that come through here. I've got fog machines, which are down the bottom. These are all my gimbals and stuff like that I actually run here with lighting and things like that. I've got a few gimbals there as well. The suitcases and all other things too, smoke effects and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, so that's basically it. Oh, and the last thing I will show you is the setup I've got at the back here. I've got a vinyl that I use. So I don't use paper on the back. There's two of them there because one's a grey paper, but the vinyl lets me reuse it. So all I have to do is wipe it with alcohol or something like that and it'll clean up. And that's really long, and I'll just bring that out when I need to actually bring it out. I've just left it down for the moment because I just did a shoot. But so that sort of shows you guys. Yeah. Again, all these windows have the electronic shutters so that I can open them up and close them down. But yeah, it's just like my man cave. It's just great. I just adore it. So let's go to questions. Let me switch over to here. And let me just quit that. All right. So let me go back, because I'll go back to everyone's just saying hello early on. Thank you so much, Dave, for the donation. I really appreciate that. Same with you, Tony. Thank you so much. It means a lot to me, guys. Everyone's still saying hi. Gerald said, shot my A7R 3 weeks in the rain in Scotland with no problems. The A7R 3 should be even better. Well, it looks like it is. Yeah, it looks like it's been proven that it is actually better, Gerald. So it looks like you have more confidence shooting that than you would with the A7R2. So that's a good thing. That was where I wasn't sure if you could see me. Tony made some comment. Thanks, Tony. Delta Dave said, plus you can get an A7R3 D850, not so much. Yeah, I know, it's been hard to get. I did notice the other day I was down in a camera store here and it was available in Ted's in High Point, which is my local shopping centre. It was there, which I was surprised.
Keith said Michael is playing with his A7R2, A7R3, but probably. Jared says, the A7R3 is clearly more accomplished camera, no contest. Yep, I agree. That's over the D850. I agree with you, Gerald. It is. Sony has been improving the colour science since the A6000. Like I said, they've had a massive improvement if you're talking about the colour science for the A9. And if they've improved that again with the A7R3, it'll be amazing, because I really love the colour now on the A9s. It's a definite improvement over the A7R2, that's for sure. Keith said the A7 III will be the next cheap full frame. Yep, I agree. But I do think the next Sony camera that's going to be released is going to be the A7S III. A7 III will probably be for Sony's with QXD. Could be, Dave. Yeah, you might be right. That could be their first one. He said, yes, A mount for life. Balang White Wolf Tony is from Singapore. Hi, mate. How are you? I'm going to be out that way in another month or so. I've actually booked Thailand. I'm going to go to Thailand for a couple of weeks for a vacation or holiday, as we say here in Australia. So I'm really looking forward to that. But we go via Singapore, so I will be there in February. Keith said B&H will be a bitch at Sony for posting that on their website. Watch B&H. No, I think it's been there, Keith. I think it's been there for a fair while, so they must have permission to actually post it. Because I saw that a few weeks ago, so it's not like they've been in any hurry to get rid of it. Keith said, someone give me $5,000 and I will spend it for a new camera and a lens or two. Someone help me plan a bank, probably. Gerald said, certainly would like that 125 f2 macro from Voigtlander. I know that'd be an incredible lens, especially for video. It'd be stunning. Keith said, 40 watching and only 5 likes. Are you people crazy? Thanks for the support, Keith. Snackclick said, I'm Snackclick and I like this video. Thank you so much. Tony said, got the Osmo Mobile for Black Friday. I love it. I know, I adore that thing. It seriously is, it's the best gimbal that I've ever used. And it has amazing features. It has a stand that comes with it and you can do time-lapse. You can do all these great things, but it by far is the best gimbal for iPhones I've ever used. And I use it all the time. I really do love it. I want one too. Yes, I can hear you. Sound okay? That's the drunk photographer. And we hear you. Good. That's everyone talking about when I changed over to that. Was that the Corona effect? Cheers. David, I see you have a Mac Pro. Yeah, I love the Mac Pro. It's just so good. I mean, I've got multiple cameras streaming into this. I've got multiple audio ports streaming into this, all running from Firewire, and it never misses a beat. Like I said, the only problem I've had today is it's played up a little bit, the Wirecast, but I'm not sure whether that's just been this update or because I've just updated the Mac. It's something to do with that. I think it's a software issue. But it never lets me down, and it's so quiet. You can't even hear that, can you? It's dead quiet, this computer. If I had an iMac or something like that next to me, the fans would be going off now like crazy and stuff like that, whereas this, it's not even working. That's one of the main reasons why I love it so much. Because it's just so quiet. I really do love it for that. So Tony said he's got the Sigma 16mm local Miami shop, has it in stock, but they're closed on the weekend. Are you going to buy that, Tony, are you, the 16? What else have we got there? Jason Vong, eat your heart out. What's that about, Keith? I'm not sure why you're saying Jason Vong, eat your heart out. Is that about my studio or what? It is a good studio, I have to admit. It's cost me a lot of money, a hell of a lot of money. I think I've spent over $100,000 on the studio. It's a hell of a lot of money, but it's been totally worth it. One of the things that I have to say to you is if you're getting a couple that's coming in to see you, and you have an office or something like this that it makes an immediate impression, all the brides that come in immediately say to me, I love your studio, it's just gorgeous. And that immediately makes things seem as if it's more professional. I used to do it from inside my house. That was terribly annoying for my wife, who could never really relax at night time. But this way, it's totally independent of my house. And I just bring the clients in. I can do whatever I like, and it's like my man cave. I just love it. I just adore it, and it certainly has been a big change for me. Like I said, it cost a lot of money, but it's certainly been worth it. Greg said, very impressive. Tony said, I've never seen this stuff. I thought I was a gadget man before this. You're talking about all the stuff I've got in here. I use it all, Tony. It's not, you know, I am a gadget man, I have to admit. Keith said, yes, very impressive. I'll probably do, what I probably am going to do though, because a lot of people ask me how I do this studio setup. I will redo this for people, so if you've seen it, you don't have to watch it again. But I am going to do this just as a video on its own to show how my whole system works. But I will be posting that on YouTube as a separate video, because I do have to show people how it works, because they keep asking me and they may not want to sit through this whole long video. But so I will do it again. So if you do see it pop up and you've watched it here, you know, you wouldn't have to watch again. I'm laughing at Tony saying I've seen everything but marijuana in the studio. That's in the other back room. Oh, I love it. Keith said, I miss my studio so much and all my gear. I'm getting really emotional. I know, it is. And the thing for me is, what it forces me to do, it forces me to work. Because when I used to have everything inside, sometimes I'd get distracted and I wouldn't work. Whereas now, when I come into the studio, it's like a workspace for me. So it has got like that I'm going to work, even though it's out in my back garden. But I do feel like I'm coming to work, and that's a really great thing. Having your work separate from your home life is really good. Gerald said, beautiful, David. Yeah, it is. I'm so happy with it. Greg said, thanks for sharing, David. Terry said, hi, David. I was doing your new iPhone happy dance today. Oh, because you got the iPhone. Today. I know, I picked up my new A7RIII. That's funny. Yeah, I'd be doing that too if I picked up the A7RIII too. I would be jumping up and down, carrying on as well. Mickey Blue Eyes Photo said, awesome man cave. I know it is. It's a great man cave. I love it. Jared said, is your A9 your main studio camera or your A7R2? My main studio camera is my A7R2. I use that for studio because I want the high-end retouching. And I need the resolution. So that's one time where I say you do need the A7R2 or the A7R3, is to give you resolution for retouching. The second I step outside the studio, though, I don't use the A7R2 as much, because I want 24 megapixel is ample for me. B&H sending 2 R3s for the price of 1. I know, I saw that. Check out B&H sent 2 A7R2s to a user when he only ordered 1. I think they'd be chasing it down again, though. I think you'd have to send it back. I wouldn't have said anything. Gerald said, certainly the A7S III will have 4K 60p, intervalometer and fast cards capability. I hope so, Gerald. That's what I'm hanging out to wait and see what they release. Sony A9 versus the A7R3 on IAF. Well, I haven't got the A7R3, but I used one in the shop the other day. I still think the A9 is a little bit faster than the A7R3, but it's more the coverage, the range of coverage on this. The actual frame is much wider on the A9. But honestly, both of those cameras are both good enough for using eye detection. They both work outstanding with eye detection. I still think the A9 has a little bit quicker focus, though. Delta Dave said, rumours of the A7RIII gave you hope. And it should be, because the Sony should not dump that. There's a lot of people have invested in the A mount, so I do hope that they keep that going. Keith said, yes, it's a good studio. Felicia said, what, Dave? What's up? He meant. Tony said, I have to visit you once before I'm dead and gone. Glad I found your old Electron video with a pocket rig. Yeah, make sure you do, Tony. If ever you come out, any of you guys ever come out here, we will all get together. You just have to notify me. I'll take you around to the best places, and we can also have a shoot. Electron video, pocket rig, I use that all the time, the pocket rig. It's fantastic. Go back in my other videos and see if you can find that, because that is a stunning device, and I love that. It's something that I do use all the time. Keith said, me too, Delta Dave. Yep, make sure you do, Keith. So any last questions before we finish for the day, guys? Otherwise, I'm going to head off and do some work. Crack another Corona. please watch my other video. If you're not watching live, I am going to plug this again though, because I do want to plug this because I want people to get involved. Let me go back to new window. I'm going to bring up Facebook. Oops. All right, let me just switch back to here. Please join this group, guys. And I have been adding people now quite a lot. But please join this group. It's called Photography and Video School. Let me just drag this down so you guys can see it. It's called Photography and Video School. And basically, it's my Facebook page linking to the YouTube channel. So I'm hoping that all you guys get involved with this as well. And you can see people are posting now all the time. I'm also shooting behind the scenes stuff. I will also show some before and after, which is great when you're looking at things of before and after. It will actually show things I can't find. There's so many posts now coming in here. Let me just see if I can search for me. Because I'll show you. See if I can find a couple. Where are we? I've been putting so much in here. I'm going to scroll down until I find some stuff. Because I show before and afters if you look at them. Let me scroll this one up and you'll sort of see. I'm always showing before and after. Sometimes they're subtle like this, other times they have quite drastic stuff. So if you're interested in what I do for editing and things like that, this is the place to be, because it will show before and afters, and I'm encouraging everyone else to do it too, so that we can all learn from one another. You can also see how we edit and things like that. And this is an area where, as this starts to grow, I'm going to be doing live things on here for you guys that will start to show video editing and stuff like that. You can sort of see here where I've showed Grace before and after. Obviously that's the after and that's the before. So please join that group. I'm going to stick this link in here so that you can see it. And so you can add it if you want to add it. It's certainly going to be an area where eventually, and again guys, it's all free. So, you know, I'm not charging anything for these things and stuff like that. So that's the link to the group if you wanted to join it. So it's there. So please join us there, because you know, like I said, it's a great place that we can all help one another, and it's a great place too that if you wanted to ask me a question, that always comes up straight away, so I can be there to answer any questions that you guys might have and things like that. I prefer it far more there than if it was on my normal Facebook accounts, because that's more business orientated. This is not an area for clients. This is an area just for you guys that I've set up. And that's why I've called it Photography and Video School, because we're all there to learn together. It's an area where it's always positive. If I see someone starting to slam someone about what they put in there, I will delete it immediately. This is only an area where it's for learning. Critiquing is okay as long as it's done, you know, in a positive manner. Anyone ever starts to say something nasty, I'll just be taking it out and deleting it straight away. It's not an area for that sort of stuff. But please join it, because you'll find, you know, it's an area where you will get other things from that you can't sort of get, and we haven't got the time to do it in YouTube. All right, guys. Well, we might call it there. Basically, that's the end of the day. I'll try and post a couple more videos up over the weekend. I'll also have some videos next week. I am going to get back to setting up your photography and video, the wedding business. I also want to review those bags that I did as well. I'm going to show you those in a review. Because you were interested in that. I know I only showed it as a live thing, but I want to talk to you about why I love those bags so much. And I am going to do a video too on the monopod that I've got too, because that's just incredible, that monopod. So yeah, join me on Facebook, and I'll see you all again soon for the next video, guys. So that's all for now. Good day from down under, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye for now.